On the 1st of May, the government will fully implement the electronic transaction levy of 1.5%. The motive for this controversial levy, as it were, is to increase taxes to GDP and fund government initiatives. But there could be a risk for entrepreneurs and tech-based startups who say the levy will rip them off their profits. In this special report, I interrogate the impact the levy may cause young startups. Take a look. It's been 4 years since Selassie Jikunu founded the Delzi Shop, an e-commerce outlet with consumers mainly in the diaspora. But COVID came and her profits tanked.
We've been operating for the past 4 years now, and we've been providing or servicing mostly people in the diaspora with authentic Ghanaian beauty care products. So they visit our website and they place their order, we process it and then deliver it to them. So basically that's what we've been doing. We have a staff strength. Before COVID, we had a staff strength of about 7. But during COVID, we had to lay some of them off, and now we're down to about 5.
Selassie may have survived the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic, but she fears the introduction of the 1.5% E-Levy will prove tough for startups like hers that are heavily dependent on mobile money transactions.
We haven't been able to come up with how we're going to encourage our customers to still use our digital platform. I would say even before it has been accepted, clients have started telling us they will pay on delivery. Whereas we have spent the past 2 to 3 years trying to encourage them to make payments even before delivery. It's like now we're taking 5 steps back after we've taken like 2 steps forward or something. So even last week it was very difficult for my staff and I, the sales lead. She just kept complaining about how now clients are insisting on cash. So it's like we're going back to the cash system, and then it's sort of making it look like efforts down the drain, putting together a website, investing so much money into technology and mobile payments and card payments, and now we have to revert to using cash. It's tough.
Whereas some economists have lauded the electronic transaction levy as a necessary evil, others insist the timing and form of the levy could cripple small enterprises like Selassie's that are heavily dependent on electronic transactions. But why and how? I put this question to Dr. John Kwachi, Director of Research at the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA.
We have consistently said that there are so many loopholes in our tax system, and we have mentioned them. The exemptions is one, property taxes is one, trade taxes, misinvoicing of trade taxes, transfer pricing, money laundering. And then, of course, we have non-compliance. It's also another area. And there's been estimates, projections that say that if all these loopholes were to be plugged, we could add something like 10 percentage points, to the current, our tax to GDP ratio, which hovers just around 12%. But why these loopholes are not being plugged, that's something that I don't get it. Sometimes it takes a political will to be able to do these things. Because, for example, the tax exemptions bill has been before Parliament. It was placed before Parliament in 2019. I don't know whether it was withdrawn, but government then had the majority to be able to pass it, but it wasn't passed. Now I understand the new bill has been submitted to Parliament. I don't know how easy it's going to be to pass that bill. We have also suggested that this is the time that we should be looking at, companies that are making a lot of profit. Even in spite of COVID, in the context of COVID, the mining companies, the oil companies, the telcos, the banks, and everywhere in the world, countries are looking for booming sectors of the economy so that they can raise additional, tax from there. And we have suggested that government should also be doing the same, what we call windfall, tax. They could be temporary. It's not something that maybe you impose and then you leave it there forever. No. As and when the conditions improve, you can review them. You see. So this is the time that we should be looking at the booming sectors of the economy to try and raise more revenue. As for the E-Levy, we have said that it amounts to multiple taxation, and therefore we would it's something that if the other things were being done, then that would not have been necessary.
It's going to be a cost that the business has to absorb. It means that our capital will dwindle, of course, but it would also mean that to be able to stay afloat, we either have to inject more capital or we have to look at other means of raising funding. Going for a bank loan is not an option, so don't ask me, because the bank policy rate is already off the roof and it's not a place we're interested in looking at, because cost of borrowing obviously has gone high. We're looking at other means like grant opportunities. There are lots of these grant funding agencies around that are organizing acceleration programs for startups like my own, and so we've decided that we get more engaged in those areas and that ecosystem to see how we can raise some free but not so free, because obviously you have to dedicate your time and energy and put things in place. And so those are some of the options we're looking at. We've also discussed crowdfunding. But then again, when it comes to crowdfunding, there has to be a purpose, or there has to be impact. People need to be convinced as to why they should support your small business. And so we're trying to see how best we can work on our social impact, our environmental impact, because we sell organic natural products, and most of the ingredients that are used are natural, and so we're trying to see how best we can focus or throw more light on how environmentally friendly the products are and the kind of social impact the business will have on the community, so we can create a story around that and then do the crowdfunding. It's hard, it's a long journey. I don't know how soon we will get there, but I'm hopeful. I'm trying to be hopeful, even though it's tough, because when you look at the numbers, even when it hasn't been, it hasn't come into operation, but it has been passed as a bill, people are already, panicking, and they don't want to buy again. They want to pay when they see the product, and so that becomes a risk on the business.
At the receiving end of any increase in production or taxation isn't just consumers but also workers. Elam Kezia is sales lead of a startup heavily dependent on electronic transactions. The introduction of the levy, she fears, will slash the amount of online orders by half, putting her job at risk.
They don't want to pay the charges. They don't want to go through all those hell. Maybe a client is buying a product worth 400 cedi, and that 400 cedi, each 100 Ghana cedi, the E-Levy is charging, I think, 1 cedi 50 pesos off. So before, the bank will also charge a fee for that. So you could see the amount of money that is going out of there. Yes. Before, if we are also going to withdraw, I think something will also be, yes. So they don't want to. It's going to stress most of our customers, and then we ourselves, as we selling to them, it's really going to stress us. It's going to take a long time before maybe some of them will understand. Because as I'm speaking to you now, most of them have gone to withdraw their monies from their Momo wallets because of the payment of the E-Levy. Because if I'm sending you money, the government will charge me, MTN will charge me. When I'm withdrawing it too, they will definitely charge me for it. So I don't think it's going to help.
The Chamber of Telecommunications fear the implementation of the levy could be fraught with some challenges. I engaged its chief executive, Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, on this development.
Responsibility lies on both sides. So we, as charging entities, have responsibilities, but the GRA also has some development that they're doing. There's a common platform that is going to be used to be able to do that. And so we will do our bit, and we are also very hopeful that the GRA would also do its bit to be able to deliver this. All
right, briefly, there are concerns about a possible contrition rate of close to 20 to 30% when the E-Levy gets into shape. The players within the telecom industry actually worried that this levy will indeed impact negatively on the use of mobile money in the country.
Well, you see, so when the levy was announced in Parliament, you realize that we had mentioned the fact that there had been no engagement. And so post that, there's been a lot of engagement that have happened. We had issued a paper to the ministry, to Parliament, and we definitely, we've not lost sight of the fact that there could be unintended consequences. So our whole posture is, what do we do to ensure that, we can mitigate those unintended consequences? You have the examples of what happened in countries like Uganda, Tanzania, in other places where, this kind of taxation has been passed, and we know how the impact has been. So government has taken some of the suggestions, recommendations we have made. Not all of them have been taken. What were some of the recommendations? So, well, definitely the reduction in the rate was some of them. The issues of merchants. Merchant payments was also one of them. We thought that merchant payments were in the nascent stages, and this was not the time to also be applying the levies on that, and government could rather use that to rake in a lot more revenues. That was taking. We also, some of the issues that we raised were the issues of the cap. The industry itself operates on the cap. So once you're sending money to somebody beyond 1,000 cedis for MTN and Airtel Tigo money, who charge, the charge is fixed at 10 cedis. And so one of the recommendations we have been pushing to government was to also put a cap on the levy so far as that is concerned. We noticed in the final bill that was passed into law that there's no cap for mobile money, but we've seen that there's a cap. The minister has the right to introduce the cap. Yes, of which we have done a report to that. But Mr. Chikwe, in just under a minute, if you can, help us understand how you are prepping yourself up for a possible contrition rate should the E-Levy come to force on the 1st of May. Well, so a lot of things. So you notice that some of our members sometime last year, looking at all of that, did a reduction of 0.25%. And then also in the engagements that we're doing with the ministry and with GRA, some of the things that, the possible pitfalls that we are seeing, we're bringing them to the fore, and we're hoping that these engagements would lead to us being able to mitigate that.
As Ghanaians brace themselves for the E-Levy to be implemented next month, which is the 1st of May, the GRA has outlined the transactions that will not be affected by the new tax policy. According to the authority, although the tax policy is to broaden the tax net, not all electronic transactions will come with a 1.5% tax rate. They include transfers for the payment of taxes, fees and charges on the Ghana.gov platform, electronic clearing of checks, specified merchant payments, transfers between principal master agent and agent's accounts. But for entrepreneurs like Selassie, employing an innovative means of offsetting the cost regarding this levy can sustain small startups, at least for now. I'm Charles Aita reporting for Joy Business.